Attorney General Gloria Kufu has led a legal team made up of her deputy Joseph Dingyok Pemka, Solicitor General Helen Ziwu, and Stella Bedu, Chief State Attorney. Now, in stating her case, she starts that they have an ex-parte motion before the court seeking to restrain members, directors and officers of the Ghana Football Association from exercising powers conferred on them by various relevant instruments to perform functions, including disposal of assets, organization of football matches, appointment of officials, among others. Now, she's proceeded to read their reliefs. 1. Order for official winding up. 2. Restrain members from performing functions conferred on them. 3. Order appointing registrar to perform functions as official liquidator. Now, she says it's important for the court to grant the interim order. Now, they've attached the GFA Commission report as deposition. On Monday, Galka met to try and help decide the way forward for the FA. George and Hans are here with details. They were George Sports. Thank you so much for coming, guys.
Always great to
All right,
you.
so
Yes,
it's interesting to know where we are now at this point in government trying to dissolve the FA and trying to build our football, if to say from the scratch. What are your impressions? Attorney General in court, Galka meeting?
Yeah, I think Galka meeting was a desperate attempt of a body feeling like it's being left out and only realizing that it's been left out. It's been left out long ago. I don't even think that Galka was as strong as it was when Kwesi Nyantakyi was secretary of Galka. Yeah. It's not been.
You're the chairman of
for the chairman of Galka. For a long time, Galka have not been in business. They only showed up when Kujo Fiano became the president of Galka. So to hear Galka going about having a 7-member committee was interesting. But that was definitely clutching at straws. They were sinking. They have to do something about it. Their meeting with government didn't really bring anything because government is impressively resolute on going down to the latter to ensure the Ghana Football Association officials probably change or have new members. I'm very impressed with what government wants to do because for me, I think it is the best thing to get everyone back to love the sport again. Everybody's disappointed. People would not want to come closer to the sport again. Government has tested the waters to see people love the idea of getting all the old officials off and get a new thing going. So just a step in the right direction, and it's good they're backing it all with law, which is good.
Hans, we had a 5-member committee, or we were told of a 5-member committee that was supposed to liaise with government and see how they could revive the FA. Yesterday we heard that that 5-member committee was scrapped. A 7-member committee was set up. Now we are in court. Does it look good to you?
Doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Like George mentioned, a desperate attempt by the FA to stop government from going ahead with, the processes to dissolve the Ghana Football Association. Now, the issue with that 5-member committee was that there were question marks over some individuals within that 5-member committee. So, if you look at how the constitution of that 7-member committee, they took out, I think, 2 of them and brought on other people. One of them, War Senator, has political capital, if you like. He's the person that they feel could have convinced government not to go ahead with this. He's I think the MC for Impoho, or one of those, Impoho districts. And so essentially their mission was simple: try to convince government not to go ahead with the dissolution. We understand it failed woefully because government is determined to go ahead with the process, as we understand it. They've already set the process in motion. For me, I think that there were a lot of options they could have looked at, but they've chosen to go down the route of dissolution. It all serves the same purpose.
What options?
There were several options, like to leave the FA standing, deal with the individuals who they feel lack the locals in terms of trust, the people that the public have come to mistrust. And then, try to whip up trust for the Ghana Football Association gradually. But, that was going to be impossible because you'd have to use structures within the FA, the structures within the FA to deal with the current issue, and people simply would not have it. And so this is where we are. It looks as if, but you see, I understand that the process of liquidating the Ghana Football Association could take up to 3 years. Ghana Airways It's still in that process as we
Yeah, but
speak.
you see,
You know, and so
they make that point.
it's
You
a
see,
very long
I
process.
agree.
But here's what I've
Winding up,
identified.
check
I'm
that.
coming.
Very smart.
I'm coming.
boy.
Here's what I've identified. First of all, they want to incapacitate the FA
Yeah.
from carrying out their function. That's key.
Yeah.
Once they use whatever legal processes to stop them from carrying out the activities, then government can put in place whatever measures to ensure that they are running. What is absolutely critical is that at this point, they should have been engaging FIFA. If there's been no consultation between government and FIFA, then at some point, we could be hearing from FIFA in terms of Ghana being banned.
Okay, I was going to that, but you just
I don't
kept...
think they aired.
George,
Government is fine.
There seems to be a problem
Yeah.
within a local football administration,
Yeah.
and you've even spoken about Galka,
Yes, Galka.
and their importance or relevance
Yes,
till
relevance
this
till
point.
this point,
Yesterday
yeah.
we hear that at the meeting there was a walkout. They were not able to come to a certain consensus. Can you tell us more about that particular meeting yesterday?
I'm just making the point that even when they met, okay, they were able to come together to say we want an emergency Congress. All for what, really? Because where was Galka when all of this was going on? You didn't need the Anas Galka to come in for this. Where were the executive committee members when all of this was going on? Nobody, and it's clear now that nobody could stand up to the president and put him to order. No one could do that. So good point he makes. We cannot trust anybody here again, and that's why government is gone the way it's gone. Now, in all the examples that we've had, i.e. the Nigeria, the Cameroon, and all of that, government did not go through this meticulous, law-abiding
Legal
moves,
process.
to ensure that things were done. So I think that we have extremely smart lawyers who have sat down to look at the situation and are going cautiously. Now, we cannot even be sure if FIFA has not been alerted on all of this. We cannot even be sure if CAF has not been alerted on all of this. I think that they are moving very cautiously, and they will definitely arrive at this. Listen, for the structures at the Ghana Football Association, even Galka, the General Secretary, was captured in the video. The General Secretary was captured in the video. When they had the meeting, they didn't address that and went ahead to want an emergency Congress. From where? Do you understand where we're coming from? So I'm sorry, I'm not saying everybody is corrupt in the Ghana Football Association, but where we have gotten to, we need to get the confidence back. And the only way is
to go through this
groundbreaking
process.
measures.
But can we risk it? Let's just go by Hans's assumption that
FIFA.
it could take us 3 years to even liquidate or dissolve the GFA. Are we ready to take that risk? Because we have a lot of tournaments coming up. Ghana is hosting something later this year. We have some of our, not directly the Black Stars, but other football,
Black Queens and
Black Princess Stars in other
my point.
competitions.
Yeah.
Should we take that risk?
Just my point before Hans comes in. If we go ahead with all these competitions, i.e. even if we won the World Cup, we would have seen much more disaster than what we have seen already. And that is giving us just a tip of the iceberg. The truth is, 2014 World Cup Commission of Inquiry, I'm happy I heard that was mentioned. We haven't gone through what we did wrong and attempted to right the wrong. We haven't done that. That's one. All the rot that's going on could still go on. So we have to get to a point where we clean up the system before we think about any competitions and all of that.
For you, is it a risk worth taking?
So I think that we can set aside the FA and still be able to participate in these tournaments. Now,
how?
First of all, the national teams, if it's about the national teams, we can. The national teams belong to the country. If we make a case to FIFA that there's a lack of trust, we need to deal with the FA. And they toe that line with us. We can still run the various national teams.
But has that happened before?
Oh yeah, it can
Yeah,
happen.
of course it can. You see, here's the thing. For a long time, Argentina's FA has been run by FIFA because of internal issues. And so, yes, we can invite FIFA in and then bring our own people on board and then be able to run the national teams.
Yeah.
Now, here's the irony about Galka. Galka is supposed to be the most powerful body within the Ghana Football Association setup. It's an association of the league clubs. Football essentially, local football essentially is about the clubs. If you take away the national teams, all that remains is the clubs. And yet, they didn't exercise the authority up until this point. What it sought to do in terms of trying to ensure that the FA remains standing was to convene a meeting, pass a vote of no confidence in the executive committee of the Ghana Football Association, get them out, and hope that was going to get the trust of the people. Government is not buying it, and this is where we find ourselves. And so, but what I find funny, or what is going to be interesting in the end is that if we dissolve the FA, and then we have to reconstitute a body that runs Ghana football. It comes back to the club. You understand me? It comes back to dealing with the same individuals who represent the clubs. It comes back to the same individuals that today we don't trust. The Ketokrekus, the other people who lead the clubs. So essentially, I mean, this
is how I explain that.
We will be getting certain people out, but a lot more of the people are going to remain.
This is how I explain it. The clubs will be the clubs. The club owners will be the club owners. Everybody's in there. But we need a good body to run the FA. So we can have an interim committee that's handling the FA and taking all these clubs through the process of beginning to do things rightly. They can be there for 2 years. We can hand it over back to them because they haven't gone through that for a long time. For a long time, there's been absolute chaos at the Ghana Football Association and everything there is. They need to learn that. They need a body that will come in and be as strict as it is and take them through the process. When that is done, they can go back to it.
I have a contrary opinion. I think that what is important is reforms. Look, a lot of things that have happened because of loopholes within the statutes of the Ghana Football Association. For instance, having the president of the FA being able to handpick his vice, for me was a no-no. The Ghana Football Association being the league organizer. If you go to England, the Premier League is a limited liability company, independent of the English FA. Let's have an independent body, independent in every sense of the word, being the league organizer. If we are that situation, Kwesi Nyantakyi had no business going to negotiate the sponsorship deal for the Ghana Premier League. And so reforms is key. Look, if we don't tighten or plug the gaps within the statutes of the FA, again, we are going to come back to these same individuals, and if the loopholes remain, they will exploit it.
Yeah, but the interim committee of the Ghana Football Association, its first job is to work on the reforms. The reforms it's going to happen whether there's an interim committee or there's no interim committee. The interim committee alone is supposed to be symbolic and to bring us back to the sport. That's the first thing. The reforms will definitely be dealt with. We cannot leave this arena without dealing with the reform. So that will be done. So he falls into me. That will be done anyway.
But gentlemen, I'm just wondering, how did we get here? How did we get to this point in Ghana football? Where did we miss it?
We got to this point because we vested so much power in one person. Simple. We got to this point because people who were supposed to keep that one person on their toes suddenly became cowards, if you like. We got to this point because the other stakeholders were shut out. You know, we had a situation where the FA suddenly became, people have described it like a mafia, and I tend to agree, such that if you are not within the FA bracket, you cannot talk about happenings within Ghana football. And so one of the proposals in terms of reforms is that we open up the Electoral College of the Ghana Football Association. Get more people involved such that even if there are a lot of bad nuts in there, you have a situation where when they go to the polls, you have a greater number that makes it impossible for somebody to influence the few people that they have to deal with. So, I mean, again, it comes back to the reforms. Let us plug the gaps within the statutes of the Ghana Football Association. That is critical.
Interesting. Well, I have to let you pause here and let our viewers know that the AG in court described the GFA as an obscene emblem of scandal, corruption and illegal enterprise, adding it was for this reason that in 2014 President Mahama set up the Commission of Inquiry following the World Cup in Brazil. She explains that in that report, it captures how the GFA engaged in unlawful payments using monies provided by the state and poor financial management. Let me just tell you that the AG's application to the court seeking an injunction that the GFA or stopping the GFA from operating or engaging in any football-related activity has been granted, guys.
Excellent.
Your response to that?
That was a solid case they filed there. If you look at referencing the report from the GFA Commission, and in particular highlighting the fact that unlawful payments were made during the 2014 FIFA, that was solid. And I mean, I don't think that any judge who has to, you know, take care of this case would really hold a different opinion.
But who do we have to blame for that? Because this whole Commission of Inquiry was televised, there was a lot of public interest, the report was done. Who do we blame for not implementing the recommendations in that?
That we can blame the previous government. we can say this government is coming in, it's politics, and that's what we've done really.
But
I don't just jump on this one, you know. Well, at a point, okay, we were going to come back to this. It's good we're coming back to this and we're dealing with it. Fantastic order, fantastic grant.
What do you think about her description of the FA?
Perfect. I've been looking for the words. I've got the words in there. I'm not being. No, I think perfect. It's been strictly obscene. It's been illegal, and they had surrounded themselves with some law that we could not hit and go in. This is the best thing that could happen to Ghana football. I think.
If you have an FA president go to a commission of inquiry and tell them that payments were made to management committee members of the Black Stars based on a coefficient that doesn't make sense to anybody, and that payments were made and people just had to write their names and sign, and some of the payments you couldn't really trace. The case they presented in court was spot on. Her description was spot on, and I'm not surprised that the motion has been granted.
So clearly, looking at what is happening to Ghana football, would you say that we have led ourselves to this point?
Oh yeah, we have. Sports journalists, we kept on ranting. And I know some people have said that sports journalists have failed because the NAS came in and did the job. I don't have that budget, $65,000. I don't have it. I can't fly Kwesi Nyantakyi to Dubai back and forth. If that's what it needed to do the job, I could not. We kept on ranting. Maybe he had the rants. Definitely he did in one of the posts that he put out there. But the football system, and I mean club owners, will have to be more responsible. We need to see Hearts of Oak and Kumasi Asante Kotoko leading the charge like the big clubs in England do. They lead the charge to probe. When the smaller clubs are screaming, we haven't seen a sponsorship, we haven't seen the details of a contract, Hearts of Oak and Kotoko keep quiet. No, the whole system is to be blamed, especially the foundation. That's got to do with the club owners. That's where our problems are. Because every decision they've taken has brought us this far. Everything they have done in being silent has brought us here. So, I blame the clubs, and I blame the owners.
I am skeptical about this whole process in terms of what benefit we are really going to derive in the end. I'm not saying that it shouldn't go ahead, but I fear it might all come to nothing because we are going to have the same class, the same people. Look, there's a culture when it comes to Ghana football, and I describe it as a culture because I think we've come to accept it. We've come to accept influencing referees as a part of the game. We've come to accept things like ways and means as a part of the game. So much so that even when it comes to international football, when it comes to our national teams, when it comes to the budget, it is stated in there. And I mean, we just make noise about it and go away. So until there is a change in that culture, until there is a change in the things we accept and the things we don't accept as a people, as a football-loving nation, nothing is really going to change.
Well, the High Court has granted this release as prayed by the AG, order for official winding up, and also an order appointing a liquidator to dissolve the GFA, restrain members from performing functions as conferred on them. And we'll bring you more details. Our man Joseph Akabla is in court for us. Definitely a lot of juicy information that he'll bring us lately. But gentlemen, before you leave, I know there's a lot to talk about the GFA, but let's talk about the World Cup, because it's just how many days? It's starting on
2 days.
Thursday. Yes, Thursday. Let's talk about the World Cup. I know we aren't featuring, but I'm throwing my weight behind Nigeria. At least they help, they support us.
You like their jersey? Yeah?
Oh yeah, the jersey is fantastic. I think it's very beautiful. But George, I mean, we have a special plan.
We have a special plan for
the World Cup coverage.
Yes, on television we've got some great shows coming away. Hans will be on one of them definitely as we come your way with the analysis, the review, looking forward to the games. That's one that you have to look forward to. All the little stats and things that are happening outside, the pitch. You get to know. More times we talk so much about the action on the pitch, but I have been to some of these Champions League finals and all to tell you that there are loads of stories connected to what you see on the pitch. And we try to bring you that. And of course, we have the broadcast rights. I mean, for commentary on radio, we're going to be as loud as possible. So
all the matches.
Yes, of course, we're giving you everything that you need to do. And you know what we have in terms of a legacy when we talk about commentary. So guys, that's not what you want.
I know you're trying hard. He's trying hard not to blow his trumpet, but we know how well you do in commentary.
We've got a dedicated FIFA World Cup page on my John Online. From the reviews, the previews, match reports, all the statistics, the features, we are going to cover the FIFA World Cup on my John Online like no other.
And I love the teams. So I mean, we've got in Africa, we're looking at Nigeria, we're looking at Senegal, we're looking at Tunisia, we're looking at Egypt, and we're looking at Morocco to come. Nigeria have already won the Fashion World Cup. They've taken it because they're white and
It's
green.
an interesting way to put it.
They won that. Now they have to come up and see if we can win the cup itself. But of course, like you're supporting Nigeria. I know there are loads of people watching us who support Brazil, who support Argentina.
I'm supporting Morocco.
You are really?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
All right. So we'll bring you a lot more on Russia 2018 right here on the Joy News channel, live commentaries on radio. But before business comes up, let me just inform you that the High Court has granted reliefs prayed by the Attorney General in the GFA case. The first one is the order for official winding up. Second, restraining members from performing functions conferred on them. And the third is appointing a registrar to perform functions as official liquidator. Now, she prayed the court that it was important to grant them the interim order and attach the Jamafet Commission report as a deposition. All right, so business is next.